Good morning, everybody. I'm Ryan Harper. This is Grant Kim. And this is episode 19.
19.
That means 19 weeks of Grant, teach me something.
2 more weeks and I can drink legally. Because 21 is the legal drinking age, and we're at 19. And 19 plus 20.
See, we're at a high, and now we're at a low. Anyway, so today I think is going to be a cool topic. What is that cool topic?
Today's topic is how to basically, I call it yin-yanging your way into success, right? Because everybody has something that they're good at. Everybody has weaknesses that they need help with. And so what we need to do as investors is we need to stop having this mentality of like, it's me, and get away from my leads.
Oh, the whole like competition,
Right.
afraid of competition thing.
Exactly. I mean, what you'll notice as you get further and further into your career here is that those of us that are super active, the ones that are really buying all the properties, chat. We talk about deals. We're flipping things back and forth. This might not fit my model perfectly, but hey, this might be something that you want to work with.
Or even as simple as, hey, check my ARV because I'm having a brain malfunction right here.
Exactly, yeah. Everybody's chatting with each other, so don't get this like, that's mine, stay away mentality of it.
My precious.
My precious. But the thing is that you need to take a self-inventory of what you've got and what you don't have, right? What are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? What are things that you're really good at, whether that might be marketing or negotiating or, like knowing how to do the low equity deals or whatever that is. And then what are the things that you're weak with? Do you not have money? Do you not have time? Do you not have, what is that thing that you don't have?
Before we get too far into this topic, I'm going to derail you for a brief moment. And by saying, if you're brand new to this business and you're at a networking event and you're getting hit up left and right, let's JV, let's JV, let's JV. Grain of salt,
Sure.
Take a step back, do your due diligence, really do I forgot what the test is called, but is this person legit test type thing? Because
Right.
there are scammers out there. There
Yeah.
are people that are going to take advantage of you.
Yes.
And they're just crooked, bad human beings.
Right.
Okay. I got that out of the way.
Yeah, no, it's good to acknowledge that, because that's one of the things that while we talk about working with other people, you can get screwed, right? That can happen. One of the things that's going to help you not get screwed is working with people that you know of or that other people have worked with. There's a lot of those guys that are going to be at these networking events. That's one of the huge parts of doing this. So when you take that self-inventory, what I'd like for you guys to do is literally litmus test. There you go. Literally,
Boom.
What I'd like for you guys to do is start writing down, as you think of what your strengths are, write down in the comments section, throw some of your strengths out there. And when you think of your weaknesses, write down what your weaknesses are, okay? And those weaknesses, don't think of weaknesses as being a bad thing, because everybody's going to have strengths and everybody's going to have things that they're not the best at, right? So one of the ways to kind of boil it down into a very basic thought process there is you've got time, you've got money, you've got knowledge, right? Those are kind of the 3 core needs of doing your real estate business. So do you have money and you don't have time? Do you have knowledge and you don't have money? Or where's your time sit and that kind of stuff? Write that kind of stuff down, because we want to use this. Your strength is gorgeous eyes. You do have beautiful eyes, Ryan. We're going to use this as a live example of how to network with people, because I can almost guarantee you that there's going to be others in this comment stage that you might be able to work with, that you're going to say oh, that guy doesn't have any time, but I've got all the time in the world. That guy has money and leads. Maybe I can run some of this.
Another
for
good
him.
example, comedy, but actuality is, I have a big heart. Maybe I'm not good at going out and saying, by the way, I'll give you 40 cents on the dollar for your house. Whereas someone like Grant has no problem with that.
That's very true. I study my negotiations very seriously. Daniel put a great one down here, because Daniel and I are very alike in a lot of ways, and this is one of them. Daniel says, great at execution, horrible at the follow-through. One of the things that we'll talk about frequently, I'm really good at building a machine, but I'm not the guy that's going to put gas in it, right? I've got to have somebody that's there to take it. I will dive in and I will just freaking murder this problem. And then whenever I fix it, I'm like, okay, it's fixed, and then I want to move on. But somebody's got to be there to continually put that gas in, right?
And the oil, and make sure the gears are working,
Exactly.
et cetera, et cetera.
So that's a weakness that I share. But one of the things that you need to figure out is, do you have things that somebody else might be able to help you with to where y'all can work together on these deals and close more, right? This networking is going to be huge in this industry. There's all kinds of networking events. When do y'all do your networking events?
Well, we have 3 coming up. We have April 23rd will be in San Antonio, April 24th, Houston, and May 7th in Dallas-Fort Worth.
Okay.
But on that, since we're talking about networking, again, I think when everybody throws out networking, they're talking about, I got a deal, you have money, close my deal, or you have a deal, I have money. That's where the most of the vernacular of networking people think of is just deal swapping.
Right. And I want you to kind of expand out from there, because there's so much that people are going to be able to help you with just from getting to know them and getting to know what they've got going on. So I encourage you to go to like your local RIA clubs. I really like going to Roger Hodkins' group over here, the NTAREI. He tends to have a lot of doers in that group. It meets over in Dallas. But find your local club and start pouring into that. Subtle plug, Creative Cashflow is doing a meetup on Monday night. We're going to go have dinner over at the shops at Legacy and just kind of talk to people, right?
Only $9.97.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's free. I mean, you pay for your own dinner. I'm not that rich, but but we're going to go have dinner and just chat, because we need to get to know each other. This is not a scarcity world. This is a let's work together world. And here's a prime example. One of the way that I've bought a ton of properties is from wholesalers. Wholesalers not buying properties as in not buying properties. Yes, sorry. Got distracted from Daniel throwing shade at me here. Not from buying properties from a wholesaler, like from their wholesale list, but here's the thing is I'm really good at buying low equity deals. That's something that cash buyers can't do. Cash buyers can't come in and buy a deal at 90 cents and still make money on it, right? So what I've been able to do through my networking is talk to wholesalers, tell these guys like, hey, what are you doing with your low equity deals that you're like, are you throwing away these deals? What happens if somebody owes more than you're able to offer them?
Right.
And the response being, well, we can't really do anything with that. My response being, well, I can. So how about this? Next time you run into that type of lead, throw it my way, I'll close it, and I'll pay you off of the closing.
Now, what are some other examples of how, like, weaknesses and strengths, how they mesh? Because one of the easiest ones I can think of is, man, I'm really good at buying houses, but I really suck at the disposition side. On the flip side, you got somebody who's really good at networking, really good at building an email list, and really good at selling houses. Perfect marriage.
Absolutely.
You know, that's why there's so many co-wholesalers out there. Well, I don't know if there's so many. That's why there are co-wholesalers out there that, you know, they have the ability to just offload properties left and right.
Right.
But what are some other examples of that?
Here's an example. So Trenton, thanks for chiming in. He says construction knowledge is one of his strengths, and he's still learning everything else. So Trenton might be really good for one of these guys like
Property
Russian
walkthroughs.
Jaime, who's come in here and he knows freaking the ins and outs of everything, but he's not really the boots on the ground guy, right? And so that might be a good connection for somebody who knows how to do all this stuff. There's going to be plenty of people who are watching these Grant Teach Me Somethings, who are studying constantly, who know the ins and outs of this business. But I'll tell you what, one of the hardest things to get right in this business is the rehab stage.
Yeah.
Because that is something that you can't do on a computer. You have to have experience doing that. So Trenton's going to be a really good resource to somebody out there who is the person that studies, knows all this kind of stuff, has some leads, and maybe you've been wholesaling, right? Maybe you've been wholesaling because taking that property down and trying to do that rehab is intimidating. There's somebody that can rehab with you.
Then you got somebody like a Bryce McKinley who's amazing on the phone, and he's amazing in the sales process. And I'm not referring to him specifically because he does have a system in place, but say you do know someone like that, but maybe that hypothetical person just doesn't want to meet people in person. If you can marry up with them, you be the person that does all the in-person stuff, boom, perfect marriage.
Totally. And I just scrolled down, and I was faced with a beautiful relationship here that I wasn't even pointing out. Hernado, literally 2 comments down, says contracting, negotiating, knowledge, that's his strength. Construction knowledge is his weakness.
Boom, Trenton.
Well, Trenton, Hernado, meet each other, talk to each other, see if there's something that y'all might be able to do to take down deals together and make this work.
And who knows? Maybe it's not working together specifically, but because maybe somebody lives in Fort Worth and somebody lives in Dallas, or maybe somebody lives in California and Florida. But hey, jump on a Skype call, and maybe y'all could just share that knowledge. That way, it's not a one-way passage of knowledge. It's a two-way street.
Exactly. When everybody wins, everybody wins. If you're able to meet up and say, like, hey, man, I found that it's best to source my tiles from Floor & Decor, and here's the ones that I've been using, right? And you can send the SKU numbers to them. It's 1,000, 27, 85, whatever. And that way, that gives them somebody some supply knowledge, that kind of thing. And then in return, he can give some knowledge about that contracting, those kinds of things. When you're getting started out, before things are like super duper busy, and you know, this may be douchey of me to say, but it's really hard for somebody like myself or a Daniel to peel away for a lunch just to kind of have lunch with somebody, right? When you're really just throwing out tons of deals. But especially when you're getting started, go to lunch with these guys, have coffee with each other, and sit down and see what it is.
I think, though, that's a different story, though. If it's a mutual beneficial, like, I'm getting something from you, you're getting something from me.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, coffee, lunch all day long. But if it's just like, hey, I want to milk you for everything you're worth and your 10 years plus experience and all this money you've spent on your education, and I just want to buy you a cup of coffee and I expect you just to vomit information, I think that's where there's a dividing line.
That's very true. And as a good lesson for that, if you are, because the reason why I'm here where I am today is because I was dumb enough / had big enough balls to go up to one of those big investors and just bug him, which was Scott Horn, right? I bugged him enough until I got that relationship. But my offer was, hey, I'm willing to throw all of my time into making stuff work. Whatever you've got there, I'm making it happen, right? So I did learn, I did milk, but I also put hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in this guy's pocket because I was going out there and returning the favor through donating time. At that point in time, my strength was time, my weakness was knowledge, right? So we had that share that made it profitable for both of us.
And I've talked about this before, probably multiple times, but like, you know, if you're just like, hey, let me take you to lunch, let me take you to dinner, let me take you to coffee, it's just like, you know, we can afford our own coffee, we can afford our own lunch, but if you can make it mutually beneficial. But if you offer to work for somebody for free, I mean, that's kind of fun.
And it's funny, that was always Scott's thing, is he's like, this guy came in here and asked to work for me and wanted to do all this stuff, and I was thinking about it, and then I realized he meant for free, and I was like, okay.
But yeah, I mean, but some people might balk at the idea of working for somebody for free, or even the idea of somebody else working for somebody. Oh, that's not right. It's like, look, when it's a modern day internship. That's what it is. It's just you're not going through a college or something. And
right.
I mean, look at all the trade schools from yesteryears. It's
right.
the same thing.
So kind of figure out where the person is that you're wanting to work with, right? There's an ask and there's an offer. You're going to ask something of them, whether that's implied or explicit. You're asking for their money or their time or their whatever that might be. But you've got to have that offer. You've got to say, this is how I'm going to help you. So here's the way that I want you to approach these conversations. When you're at these networking events, I want you guys to say, go up to them, and the first questions should always be, what do you have going on? How can I help you? What's something that I can help out with, right? And most commonly, the response, they're going to say, I don't know. They're going to be like, oh, I don't know. And so you've got to start asking those open-ended questions some more. Get them to start talking about what they're doing. And then one of the things that I like doing is saying straight up, what are your strengths and what do you have? Do you have time? Do you have money? Do you have knowledge? What's the thing that you have that you're trying to leverage into a real estate business?
So I don't know who Daniel's calling bullshit on, but because I forgot the conversation already, but he was saying bullshit. Exchanging your time for knowledge is worth far more than trading your time for money.
Okay. Exchanging your time for knowledge is worth far more than trading your time for money. Okay, yeah. So the principle here being, and he may is it free if you're gaining knowledge? Somebody was saying something about free down there. It must have been. So the thing is absolutely, like, I had time to exchange.
Oh, people that bitch for working for free. Got it.
Right. I had time to exchange for something, And I could either put that time into going out and figuring out how to wholesale a deal and make $10,000, or I targeted one of the most successful investors in Texas and exchanged that time for the knowledge that it took to build that foundation to where, here I am in 6 years into the full-time career with a really, really solid, good portfolio that's going to last a long time. And that's that exchange there. You've got one of the things that I always point out to people, because a lot of times, and I'm sorry, I'll let you talk in a second.
No, you're fine.
A lot of times people are really quick to forget that there's more than one way to get paid. And that's one of the things that I always want to point out to people is there's more than one way to get paid. You can get paid through lifestyle, you can get paid through time, you can get paid with money. Now, if you're not making quite as much money as you wanted to make, but you have that lifestyle that you want, does that make sense to you? Maybe. Right? So stop thinking that payment only means money. You might get something huge from a JV or from just working with somebody else out in the industry that you're going to be able to use for years and years and years. My stance has always been, and if you know me, you've heard me say this plenty of times. I'm sure you've heard me say this. I'd rather make a little bit of a lot than a lot of a little bit, right? Because if you make 20% of $10 million, that's more than 100% of $100,000. But by opening up and delegating tasks, which is essentially what you're doing here, is you're delegating out what you are not great at to somebody else who's great at it, you're able to do more ultimately and put more into your pocket ultimately, whether that is the time that would have been spent doing whatever it is that they're doing for you, or whether that is, the lifestyle that it's going to afford you to have all of these fingers out there that you're working with. You will get paid ultimately in a great way from opening up to those JV agreements.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking about it because it's like, are we off topic? Are we still on topic? At the end of the day, I think we're still somewhat on topic, because if we're talking about, you've got time, somebody else has knowledge, and there's that marriage there, because somebody who has the knowledge, like a Daniel, has zero time, but if he could give you a couple nuggets here and there to plant the seeds, maybe throw some water every once in a way,
right.
Then you'll grow, and then there's that marriage there. But as far as going to a networking event and, it's all fine and dandy in theory and talking about it, but other than wearing a sign that says, I have a lot of time, no knowledge, how can you, how do you interact?
That's
how do you
a great
find
question.
people?
That's a great question.
If in this situation where if we didn't ask people for comments, who knows that Trenton's good at construction?
Totally.
Who knows that Hernando
Yeah.
isn't? So how do you fish that information out?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, my favorite thing to ask is, how can I help? They're typically going to be like, they're not going to know. So I'm going to follow that up with, well, what are your strengths? Like, what do you have? Do you have time? Do you have knowledge? Do you have money? What is it that you're trying to leverage into real estate? And they will give you one of those answers, right? And if they don't give you, so that's going to be the answer for the somebody.
If their answer is, I want to get rich.
You can say, oh, man, that's awesome. All right, well, it's good meeting you.
Yeah, me too, man.
No, but if they don't give you one of those answers, it's probably because they've got their stuff together, and they might be like, well, I'm wholesaling a bunch of deals every month, right? So this is where it comes to you to be creative, and this is why I'm asking you to put your okay, lots of time, little knowledge. Well, get ready to get bombarded by a lot of us that have no time. Cameron over here, I've got lots of time. No. Be ready to be creative. This is why I want you guys to write your strengths here, because there's something said with actually writing down and taking that inventory and being held accountable to that. I want you to write your strengths down in those comments so that when you go to these networking conversations, you already know your strengths. So when you talk to that person and you say, what do you have? Do you have time? Do you have money? Do you have knowledge? And they tell you what they've got. Well, if you know, like for instance, that's me. I've got lots of time and very little knowledge. If the person says, man, I've got a bunch of money to spend and I'm closing deals left and right, but I've just got no freaking time, then you're going to say,
I've got time, put me to work.
I've got time, put me to work. I would love to learn under you. I would love to, what do you need? How can I help? And then what you need to do is chase them. I don't have time to chase that person. I just told you. So I'm that guy. I've got a bunch of money. I've got a bunch of deals. I don't have time to do anything. I'm having to cut off, and I've got a staff of 8 or 10 people that are out there doing stuff. I still don't have time to do stuff, right? So I'm not going to be able to chase you. If you say, man, I've got all the time in the world, here's my card, I'm never going to call you.
And on that, I would keep your eye on the prize, though. because you might be in that situation and you might do in your mind 100,000% of the work, and at the end of the day you're working with Grant and Grant's giving direction, but you're doing all the foot traffic, and all of a sudden you're handing a check to Grant for $30,000 profit, and maybe Grant buys a cup of coffee. I don't know. Maybe there's a fee structure, maybe there's not, but that's not the point. You need to keep your eye on the prize, because while, yes, you may have done all the work, and man, that $30,000 should be mine, is like, should it? Like, because if you were
going to make that without that partnership,
or because now you at least have a base knowledge where maybe if Grant's not taking care of you, you can just go off and do it yourself. But I would, advise keep your eye on the prize, because again, maybe the next deal, someone like Grant's can be like, okay, well here's a little meat of here's a little piece of it.
Well, and here's a big thing to think about.
Basically, I'm saying don't be jealous about the check, when even though you think you did all the work, when it was somebody else's brain that pushed it.
Right, and similarly, I was in that same boat. But I really enjoyed this part of the conversation, because this is honestly the hardest part about when you're trying to offer that up, because if you've got time, you need to get paid for that time. I get it. Now, obviously, like Daniel said, knowledge is part of that payment. There are other ways to get paid, but you do want to work with people. Like, it's very important to me that anybody I work with gets paid. There's times where I'm literally not making money or I'm losing money on deals, but I'm still paying the people who are involved with it, because I understand people need to get paid, right?
Absolutely.
So you want to search out people that are going to take care of you, and you want to get that agreement taken care of before anything starts. Don't assume anything. It's always got to be like, what kind of share are we talking about here? And don't be so like laser focused on that. Like if there's a lot of dynamics to a deal or something, get kind of a baseline. Like, one of the things is, like, with my wholesalers that send me those leads, like I was talking about earlier, I pay a minimum of 1.5% of my sales price. Okay, so even if I lose money on the deal, that wholesaler is going to get 1.5% of what I sold it for being that lead source, right? So we've at least got a baseline knowledge. But if I make more, they make more too. We have that agreement up front.
Right.
Now, whenever I went in and traded time, that was the deal. It's like, I traded time, but I knew that I was only getting 30% of the deals at that point in time, and I was running the entire show.
And at 30% is a shit ton of money. That's a big ass. That's a big nugget. Because I know, like, if you come into my office and say, hey, teach me, you're not getting 30. You're getting 30% if you bring the deal and you bring a piece of paper.
And I was. I was bringing the contract in. But if you're just like doing the work, maybe expect about 10-15% of the deal. For they're doing everything out. You're basically, they say what to do, you go do it.
But on the flip side, say it's Grant coming to Ryan, and maybe Ryan's I don't know you, so maybe the first one I give you 5%, or maybe I give you $500. If it's not working for you, take what you learned and go on to the next mentor / professional or expert. Because again, not everybody is going to be like wanting to take somebody under their wing. So just because it works out or doesn't work out, don't let that discourage you from pursuing this passion.
And I think that this is a really good conversation, because it goes to show you how many different ways there are to handle this kind of JV agreement, right? Because it really matters. What I've always said is you get paid for what you do. Okay. So one of the ways that I have structured that in the past is like doing like a 5-way split, and this may be a good way for you guys to approach doing something like this. If you've got stuff to offer, right? If you've got nothing but time, obviously that's a little bit different. But if you've got something to offer here, the way that I'll do it is I'll say 20% goes to me as a base for being involved. Okay, 20% goes to whoever finds the lead, 20% goes to whoever contracts the lead, 20% goes to whoever runs the rehab, and 20% goes to whoever sells the property.
And I'll tell you right now, those types of splits are incredibly gracious, and don't expect that everywhere else.
Yeah, and don't expect that everywhere else. But again, this is when you've got something to offer. I'm not having to pour in. That's if I never have to touch getting that lead, and I never have to touch getting that contract, and I never have to touch anything on the rehab, right?
Your 20% is basically because you're the glue that put everything together.
Right.
I will say this is an interesting topic, mainly because on the drive in this morning, I'm kind of mentally trying to develop a a team building class for our academy. And one of the things I was thinking about is, like, if you do have an office type or whoever is on your team, you have 3 payment structures. You have a base salary with a bonus, or just straight percentages. And what I was mentally thinking about is, if you just pay somebody salary, eventually that person's going to see how much money you're making, and they're going to want to leave and do it on their own. If you pay somebody salary with a bonus, eventually that's still going to happen, but it's going to take a little bit longer.
Depending on the bonus,
But if you're paying somebody percentages, depending on that person's type of personality, if they're a solo guy, they're going to leave regardless. But if they're a team player, they're going to stay with you forever. And the only reason I'm bringing that up now is just because we're talking about structures, and everybody structures stuff differently.
Totally. We've got a good, Carlos says, whom here can I add value or can I assist with, right? I'm in Miami. Well, Carlos, what do you need to do? You need to offer, right? What's the offer? So you got the ask somewhat of, it sounds like an offer, but it's more of an ask. Who can I add value to or assist to? But you didn't tell us why. What do you have? What's your strength, right? So this is a really good lesson in how to get these types of relationships, is whenever I approach somebody, if I've got something in my mind, like I said, I like to say the whole, how can I help you? What are your strengths? But if we got to cut to the chase, if it's the elevator pitch, if I'm putting a 10-word pitch together, I'm going to say, hey, I've got a bunch of money right now, and I need to put it on the market, or I've got a bunch of leads right now, or whatever that is. I need some help doing this. What's going on with you?
I will say, because on the flip side, it's like, hey, I know nothing, but I have a lot of time. I'll work for you. I'll work my ass off. If it's, hey, I know nothing. I want to be in this business, but I also work somewhere else 80 hours. I can give you about 15 minutes a day. Well, where's the motivation on the other side of the table to even entertain that topic?
And I want to go back to something I mentioned earlier. If you've got to chase, if you're the I've got time guy, you've got to chase, okay? It's up to you, because I'm not going to call you. I've got people, literally probably a minimum of 3, a most of 10 people a week who come in and they act like it's the end of the world they want to meet with me and get everything done and blah, 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 blah. But from my experience, actually getting those people to follow up and do stuff is very unlikely, okay? However, Mary Lou is a realtor that I've poured a ton of resources into, and she now is just a freaking rock star on the real estate side. She was already a rock star on the real estate side, but guess what? I had that conversation with her at the very beginning. I said, look, I see that you are capable, you're a really good negotiator. This is the last time I'm going to chase you. This is the last time that I'm going to go to you for something. And guess what? For the next 3 months, every single day she texted me, hey, what are we doing today? What are we learning today? How can I go out and help you today? Blah, 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 blah. Every day was a text. How can I help? What am I doing? What can we do? And now she's somebody that I send every lead to, because I know that I can rely on that person. So if you're the I've got time guy, bug us.
And real quick, if you are bugging somebody and then that somebody gives you homework like, hey, go pick up this book and go read it. Or, hey, here's a book, go read it. And you don't read it.
That shows us something.
That shows that, well, look, you're asking, and here I'm giving you something. And, even just, and I know it sounds absurd, but just taking the time to say, yeah, here, go read this book.
Yeah.
Or if I spent $20 to buy you a book,
do it.
There's an effort there on my part just to even give you the brain power of, hey, you should read this book. And I know that sounds absurd, but how many times do you drive down the road and just not even acknowledge somebody on the sidewalk? It's the same thing.
Yeah, so, and I want to move on from this too, just in the interest of keeping us timely. But on that note of chasing, when Scott did open his door to me, I was in the office the next day. He didn't say when to be there. He just said, okay, well, let's do this. I figured out when their office opened, and I was there when the doors opened, and I locked up that office that night for the next, several months, right? Just in there, just finding something to do, whether that was even going on Bigger Pockets and trying to find people who might need services that are going on, right? You've got to be that person if you're going to say that you've got time to offer. So chase the people. But, again, take your self-inventory. And my apologies, Carlos, I scrolled down a little bit. He did say what he had to offer earlier. Hernado has a question. How would you recommend finding a mentor? I'm slightly biased in that, but in the fact that I do mentorships. But what I would recommend is Be very cautious of. So I do paid mentorships, right? They're expensive. I cost a lot of money, and that's not going to be the right choice for a lot of people. Most people, if you need that deal done, are you going to pay the money for the mentorship, or are you going to pay the money to go out there and try some marketing and find somebody that's going to deal with you? A lot of people need that hand-holding on the mentorship. A lot of people are going to do better by just going out there and getting stuff put on the, putting mailers in the mailbox, and then finding somebody that might want to work with them. You've got to, when you're looking for somebody to work with, and I'm going to use that mentor word as both like paid mentor and like, ask and offer mentor at these networking events. Feel them out. If you're going to pour your resources into them, I was comfortable pouring my resources into Scott's organization because Scott has a great reputation. He's been around for 30 years. There wasn't any vetting that needed to be done on his side, but you should vet. If you're talking about trying to get into a relationship with somebody that's going to be, hey, let's work together, it is. Go to coffee, go to lunch, figure out who that person is, and do they share your values? That's one of the biggest things that you need to figure out, because your values are something that you've got to be very aware of for yourself. And when I say your values, it's things like, does money come first or family come first? Does business come first or whatever else comes first, right? If you are a nothing else matters but business, you need to get hooked up with somebody else where nothing else matters but business, or else y'all are going to have these clashes of thought process and be frustrated with each other in the long run, right?
And on that, if you are working with somebody who's giving a lot of knowledge, one thing that I'm really good at is if I get in an organization, I feel like I'm very good at going, okay, this is my job, and then I just put tentacles out there to take over everything else to where I'm completely indispensable. Where like, hey, the joke in the office here is I'm the scheduler. I was hired at Propelio to schedule people to come into the studio. Well, if you've noticed, I'm the only one that's usually up here on the stage a lot. Daniel comes every once in a while, but but you make yourself
You do.
What's the word?
Indispensable.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Where you just go in there and be like, okay, what stresses this person out? How can I take that off their plate?
Right.
So with Grant's example with Scott, he goes in there and like, okay, well, let me take that, and then you're just that like hungry hippo, where you're just taking more and more responsibility, more and more stuff.
Right.
So that's my advice for anybody that's like, say you just got a $10 an hour job or assistant role at one of these companies, or you're doing the, hey, let me work for free. Just start taking duties, and eventually whoever you're working with is going to be like, well, shit, I don't want to lose this guy, or I don't want to lose this girl.
Right.
I need to start paying them more, or taking care of them more, or I'm going to lose them.
Because it's a dime a dozen. There's, like I said, I get 3 to 10 people a week that are going to drop out of the business entirely within 2 weeks, who act like it's the end of the world and they are going to do everything that they can to make this business work. Well, if you were going to do everything you could to make this business work, you would email me or call me more than once.
Yeah, and
right.
And on that note, as you're taking those, going back to my little analogy, the hungry bill, because real estate is very much so a networking type of, you're out there. Even if the person you're working for doesn't take notice, other people will start taking notice. Right. And you will start getting headhunted. I'm not saying jump ship.
Sure.
But it happens.
Yeah. Ryan was headhunted. Everybody sees how hard he works. So just to recap, and we'll kind of finish up here, I want you guys to be aware of what your strengths are, because your strengths are going to be somebody else's weaknesses. It's really easy for you to think like your strengths are easy because they're what's easy for you. But I guarantee you what's easy for you is not easy for everybody. So you need to be very aware of what your strengths are so that you can match them with other people's weaknesses. And those strengths and weaknesses may be something material like money, or it may be something immaterial like knowledge, right? And you've got to be able to leverage that with each other to get those deals. Be ready to take a little bit of a lot. Okay, when you're learning, when you're getting into this business, there is nothing more valuable than knowledge. Knowledge is it. Private money is awesome. Deals are awesome. Knowledge is what makes it happen, and then the hustle to go out there and actually do it, which is that chase, right? Yeah. You've got to chase the person. You've got to chase the deals. You've got to be willing to actually put that work in. I quote it a lot. I averaged 16 to 18 hours a day for the first 18 months of my career. Averaged 7 days a week, showing houses on Christmas morning because I had to chase. I was not in a position to relax at that point in time. So you've got to be willing to work. You've got to gather that knowledge. You've got to network with people at these networking events, figure out what they have, what you need, and vice versa, and get with it. You've got to have your ask, but you've got to have your offer.
I had just a brilliant comment to that, but I lost it. Going back to the deal side of things, though, in setting up deal structure. If somebody has all the knowledge, like you said, that is everything in this business. Because in a market like this, money's everywhere. So coming to a Grant, coming to a Daniel, hey, I've got access to money. So, and what does that mean?
Yeah, I've literally got right now I have about $75 million backing me that I just can't place. I got a bunch of money. Now, part of that is because some of it's earmarked for like, hey, we want to buy a subdivision and build to rent, right? There's things like that out there, but there's a ton of money in this market.
I don't want to say the word guaranteed, but I would bet you if you go to anybody with a deal, that's a different story.
It is.
You go to anybody with a potential deal, that's a different story. Hey, I've got a strong lead. Hey, I'll take a strong lead all day long.
Right.
Hey, I've got an address. Yeah, I'll look at it, but for the most part, you need to have either a strong lead, or deal,
right,
to actually do those JVs.
So I know this is going to get replayed, and people are going to be watching it. And I want you to continue looking through these comments. Look for people who have strengths that might be your weakness, and remember to put your strengths on those comment fields and network. Message them. You've got their name right there. Hit them a message. Just be like, hey, Hernando, I saw that you needed some construction help. I'm really good at construction. Where are you? What do you got going on? And see what you can do. Start now. Put this stuff into play. Everybody around here can help somebody else some way, somehow.
Because we're only about 36 minutes into this, I'd like to give you, let's talk about interesting ways to network.
Okay.
Because you go to these events, you meet people at a time, and it's always, what do you do? Are you a wholesaler? Are you a flipper? Are you this? And, if you're at a networking event where there's 200 people, you're just like, shut up. So what do you think are some fun ways to start those conversations?
Yeah, so I'm going to kind of sidestep the question a little bit because this is just a really quick little tip.
Oh,
when you are networking with people and they hand you their business card and it is that, oh my gosh, we have nothing that I can work with. Here's a quick little tip, and I'm selling myself out, so now everybody's going to be watching what I do with their business card. But if it's a business card that I know is somebody that we have nothing to work with, as I'm putting it in my pocket, fold it. All right. So at the end of the night, all of the unfolded cards are the ones that you need to follow up with. The folded cards are the ones that there's just clearly not anything that's going to work between all there.
And then 2 points on that. Bring a Sharpie. If you're talking to somebody, take notes on those business cards. Second point, if you give your business card to somebody and then that person looks at the business card and gives your business card back, you're probably working for a shady company. I'm not saying I do that a lot, but I'm saying I have done that.
Yeah, there's plenty of times where I'm talking to somebody and I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. Oh, okay. All right. Well, it's nice meeting you.
Yeah. And again, it's not all the time, and I'm not even going to say it's a frequent thing. I've done that once in my real estate career, but that was because I knew exactly the company, and I'm like, nope.
So, interesting ways to market, though. Again, my favorite question is not
network,
what
not
do you do. I'm sorry, network. Well, it's your marketing yourself. My favorite question is not what do you do. My favorite question is what do you have, right? Like, what's the thing that you've got in your favor?
Or what do you need?
Or what do you need, right? Those are the things that just jumping straight to the chase on it can rule out a lot of time wasted of just the kind of boring questions of like, oh, you're a wholesaler, that's nice, well, blah, 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 blah. It's always, how can I help you? What's going on? What's going on in your career right now? What can I do to help you? And here's the thing. I was at a location the other day, and when somebody walked by and stopped and started talking to us, and this is some place where it's like it's not a networking event, it's not for real estate investors, but I asked the question, what do you got going on? How might I be able to help you? I do real estate. This is what through opening that door, they were commercial real estate investors. I mean, that's one of the things that they had going on, and they're doing apartments, and there may not be anything for me to work with them at, but I was able to crack that shell open, right? So one of the things we talk about in networking and trying to get yourself out there that gets brought up a lot, I know Jason has talked about this, Ryan, and you've talked about this, is you've got to be the real estate guy. Yeah. You've got to be the real estate girl, right? I always, when I'm out in just the world, if I see somebody that I think might be interested or have capital or something like that, I find an opportunity to drop in the fact of oh yeah, I've got a house over there. So what part of town do you live in? And there's oh yeah, I've got a house over on that way, or whatever that might be.
Yeah, and sorry, I didn't. Well,
no, you're fine. It just gets them to ask questions, opens the door for you.
Well, if you've been watching these shows that we do here, or if you pay attention to the comments, there'll be times that there's questions asked. I'm like, oh, hey Grant, answer this. Hey Dan Diaz, answer this. Hey, just you tap into your network to help each other, because at the end of the day, I may not know. You may ask me a question, I may not know the answer. Daniel may not know the answer. Grant might not know the answer. But you know what? There's a high probability that somebody in your network knows somebody else that has that answer.
Right.
So and that's just another aspect of networking.
Totally. And that's one of the things is that you keep it in the back of your mind of who that person, what they know, because now what you've done is you've helped them. Right, and that goes back to the reciprocity, like we were talking about last time, is that when you've helped somebody, they're more willing to help you because they see that you're adding value to their life. For as an example, I've got a mentor student down in Houston that ran into a trailer. I don't do trailers. I don't know anything about trailers, anything like that. But I was able to get him hooked up with Corey, because I know that Corey does trailers, and that's something that he can help with, right? And so now that's adding value to Corey's life, and there might be a relationship between Corey and myself later that's reciprocal based off of that.
And that's that whole tying it all back to the whole yin yang to close more deals, because by networking, by meeting people, by providing value to each other, because later on in that situation, maybe they're like, you know what, I got an owner finance deal. Well, Grant hooked me up with that with Corey and that trailer thing, so let's send it his way.
Yeah, absolutely. So be the real estate person. Go out there looking for ways to help people. That's the main key, is how can I help you? Right, and you've got to really get that in your mind of like, this is what you're doing. You're trying to find ways to add to their life, and your job is to be creative about what your strengths are and figure out how you're going to be able to help them. Even if their answer is like, you're like, what are these 3 things that you've got? And they're like, well, I'm wholesaling a lot. And you know that you have time, you can be like, oh, okay, well, man, are you going on appointments all the time? Blah, 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 blah. Do you need somebody to help with like answering the phones or anything on that side? Because I'd love to learn what you've got going on a little bit more. I've been studying a lot, and I'm ready to go,
And what I would challenge people who are watching the show, not just this one, but all the other ones, and if this is your first one, there's a link to the first episode that we did with Grant Teach Me Something. Watch all of them, and then not just watch them. Go to the comment section and see what people are asking, see what people are commenting. Obviously, if it's like just highs and buys, maybe you say hi back. But if there's questions, that question's probably applicable, and the response is something you probably would want to know. But we check these comment sections, so if you have questions, even on the lower videos, drop the lines. What I challenge you on this one though is type in, what are you looking for? What do you need? What can you provide? And who knows, maybe there's a relationship just through the comment section of Facebook that you can find your next business partner, find your next mentor, find the yin yang to close more deals.
Right, absolutely. So yeah, guys, the cool thing that you have here is that no matter what you do actually have right now, you have the ability to get knowledge. You have the ability to be the knowledge person through watching these lessons, through commenting on here, that kind of stuff. And what I would encourage you to do, where's our subtle plug button, is sign up for Propelio. They sponsor this. They're putting this stuff out there for free for you guys, but it all gets turned around from Propelio.com, which is an awesome piece of software. And if you know how to handle leads and how to comp properties and how to actually put that stuff together, you are going to be much more useful to somebody else who might have all these leads, is because you can come in and say like, look, hey, I can handle, you can just hand it to me. I'll be able to give you the comps on it, show it to you, put it into our system, kind of work that system for you to get things going. That's a really good opportunity for you to do that. So I encourage you to check out Propelio.com, see what you can get going on that side.
So Grant. Yes, Ryan?
Yes, Ryan?
What do you need? What are you doing? How can I help you?
So right now, it's that time is an issue for me, right? I need somebody that is willing to come in and basically do whatever, just be available to help with all the random things that are going on and get the nuggets of the real estate business in the middle. Because I've got money. We've got leads coming in. Obviously, more leads are always good. So another thing that I need is if you are a wholesaler and you've got people that are saying no because they owe more than what you can offer, I need those leads. Those are leads that I can take down and make good money for both of us on, right?
So basically, you're looking for another grant.
I'm looking for another grant.
And because I know you do mentorship. You're not looking for necessarily somebody who wants to be mentored for their own business.
Right.
You want somebody to be mentored for your business.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
And again, it comes down to you've got to really make sure that you're treating everybody fairly on the pay, right?
Unfortunately, that's not me. I do have a baseline knowledge of this business. I do have a full-time job, and I do have a full-time investment thing on the side.
Okay.
So
what are you running
maybe
into?
I know somebody that could help you out.
Okay, cool. Well, what are you running into? Like, how can I help you?
I'm looking for more deals always.
Okay.
I'm currently looking for that $200,000 to $400,000 range house, 5 bedrooms plus,
okay,
in a decent area.
Well, here's the thing: is like if you're looking for 200,000 to 500,000,
4.
Or okay, 200,000 to 400,000.
4,
You're looking for 5 beds and up.
Plus, yeah.
I like capping at 250. Like I really like to buy houses in the 80 to 250 range, and I don't care if it's a 3-bed, 4-bed, 5-bath, or 5-bed, any of that kind of stuff. So if you're running into deals that don't fit your box, but might fit my box, whether that is that they owe too much, or it's just maybe not the ARV you're looking for.
Yeah, because I'll be honest, the 80s to the 150s are not.
That's not your
There's
deal.
just not enough meat on the bone.
Okay. Well, I can either buy it from you wholesale,
okay,
and like throw you some cash for the lead itself, or if you would rather, like I can take the deal down and then we can start talking about kind of a partnership split on that.
Cool.
Depending on what the deal looks like, you might be able to make more money off of it that way. So it kind of depends on like, do you need the today money or do you want to wait a little bit?
And to be honest, on a deal like 180 to 150, I'm looking for more like a cup of coffee or a scratch my back later.
Okay, cool.
Basically, that's a conversation. That was not scripted, that was not planned out, but that was a very real conversation. I know there was a little affect there, but to be honest, I know that's exactly what he's looking for, and that's exactly what I'm looking for. But that's exactly what you do in a networking situation, and just open those doors and see where it takes you.
Right, because you never know. Open-ended questions, what's going to come out? You might find something that you're able to help with. I said that I wanted people to help me on a day-to-day basis and more leads, and we're like, that doesn't really work, but I'm looking for $200,000 and $400,000 houses, and I know I want cheaper houses. If he doesn't want those cheaper houses, that's a way that I can help. But he can make more money off of deals that he wasn't going to close before, which goes back to yin yang to close more deals.
And if you notice, like, and again, this is not everybody, but I was using that whole future reciprocity tactic of if I do come across an $80,000 to $150,000 house, just buy me a cup of coffee and scratch my back later. That's that whole reciprocity tactic that we've talked about in episodes before. So again, that's those different techniques there. And again, Cameron, if you're looking for a full-time thing, looks like you got a guy. I'll put that. I know him from college.
Oh,
that's the guy I was going to hook you up with.
Oh, awesome! Excellent, nice.
But,
well, cool. Well, guys, I want questions. If you've got questions, pop them in here. We do try to check on these things in the future. We're tagged on it, so I'm going to see when you talk to us. So talk to us and put stuff out there of what you've got, what you need, and let's try and make this conversation work for everybody, because this is a really good subject about stuff that I have made hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars on because, and I always say, I'm not a phenomenal marketer. I'm really not. I'm not a phenomenal marketer, but I'm really good at networking and I'm really good at negotiations, right? And so I'm able to find ways to fit myself in to help other people and thus make it more.
That parasite.
I'm a really good parasite. I will, yeah. So find ways to help other people out, and it's going to help you out.
And again, the beauty of Facebook is the fact that you're able to make comments and talk directly to other people. I think in the YouTube world, when there's like gajillions of comments, or even the Facebook world, there's gajillion of comments. It gets lost. So make sure if you want to reach out to Hernando, tag at Hernando. If you want to reach out to Grant, at Grant, Creative Cashflow, Ryan, Daniel, but keep that conversation going. Find people that you can provide value to, that you actually see something that maybe they can help benefit you as well, because you do want it to be a win-win.
Right. And just to recap before we finish up, we do have some networking events coming up that if you wanted to talk to us directly, you're going to be able to talk to us. And so one would be this Monday. You can go to meetup.com and look for CreativeCashFlow.com. We are doing a dinner over at the Shops of Legacy. It's like a Mexican food restaurant over there. And it's not we're going to go out there and teach anything. It's just let's talk to each other and see how we might be able to help. Last month, I was able to meet up with a guy that's done a ton of apartments, a ton of commercial deals, and we're looking at maybe doing a full subdivision together, right? You just never know what's going to pop up at these kinds of events. So there's that, and then San Antonio is April 23rd. Both of us are going to be there. San Antonio, what's the location?
The Whitty Museum.
The Whitty Museum?
Whitty Museum.
And then on the 24th, the next day,
we'll be in Houston.
In Houston. Do we know where it is in Houston?
Lions Heart Studio.
Lions Heart Studio. That's cool. That's
It's
a cool
off of
sounding
Forney
place.
Road, south of some freeway, west of another freeway.
So if you're local to any of those areas, and then May 4th, right, here in Dallas?
May 7th.
May 7th, here
We're going to be in
Dallas.
Grapevine, which is going to be awesome for you DFW folks, because if you're in Dallas, you've probably never gone to a Fort Worth event. If you're in Fort Worth, you've probably never gone to a Dallas event.
Yeah,
just
so
because
let's meet
driving.
midway in the
yeah,
middle.
so and it's a cool venue. So looking
cool.
forward to all those things, and then obviously continually doing more events in the future. So
Right.
Keep around, stick around, keep watching
And there's
the videos.
links on the comments
learn.
for those. And then if you are interested in being the knowledge person, if you want knowledge to be your strength, check out these videos. There's a link in the top description of this of how to get back to episode 1. And then obviously CreativeCashFlow.com. That's where I come from. I do education from start to finish on the negotiations, on the seller financing, and we talk about everything that you need to get to where I am right now in my career. It's a completely open book on that side of things. So you can check that out for knowledge. The Propelio Academy will be launching very soon. You'll be able to check out for knowledge. And then just keep watching Propelio's videos that come up here live. So we really appreciate you having here. I love the comments that we're getting. I love the participation that we're getting here. You guys are awesome. Continue to participate. We'll be here next week. Same time, same bat place, Wednesday, 11 o'clock a.m. Grant, teach me something.
11 o'clock a.m.
11 o'clock
Is that
a.m.
right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
11 a.m.
Yeah.
And then what's your next live going to be on? Do you know? Friday?
Let me calendar that.
Calendar that thing. So check back
Stay
on these things
tuned.
frequently. But thanks for being here. Is there anything else that you...
As always, Propelio.com, if you're looking for a place to get access to MLS comps, if you're looking for off-market leads, and if you're looking for investor websites, check out Propelio.com for a 7-day free trial. Ba-boom.
All right, awesome. So until next time, keep learning. Go out, network. Your homework is by next Wednesday, I want you to be able to come back and tell me the name of one person that you met and what they have and what you had and how y'all were able to make it work.